Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Hope everyone is doing well on this Saturday morning. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I was having some major technical difficulties, but we are here. Big show to bring you guys this morning, but before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if this is your first time watching, and let's get straight on into it. Obviously, it is game day today, so we will be previewing the Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest game, 5:30 p.m. kickoff. But before we do that, lots of other news to go through with you guys, so let's jump straight on into that then, shall we? And let's start off with the story about Raphael Varane. The headline this morning is that Manchester United are in talks with Varane over a new contract. Now, the big thing to focus on here is that from what I'm hearing this morning, Manchester United will not offer Varane the same wages as what he's on now. He's currently paid £340,000 per week, which is ridiculous, let's be honest. Like, he's not worth £340,000 a week, is he? He's injury prone. On his day, he's world class, but he only seems to be able to play one game a week. With someone like Varane, I would, I would maybe be looking at one of those contracts where it's based on how much he plays, because that is a common thing now. When there's a player who seems to be getting injured a lot, instead of giving him a blanket 340 grand a week, they might do it based on incentives. So, they'll give him, say, 200 grand a week, and then for every game he plays, they might give him an additional 10 grand or something, something like that. It needs to be a bit more based on performance and based on actual playing. I think giving him a new contract's definitely the right decision, though. I think he's still got a lot to give. He's only, 30 or 29. He can still play 2 or 3 years at the top level, in my opinion. And if you can tie him down on a new contract, but on heavily reduced wages, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. I really, really do. Because, unless you're going to get £40 million for him, you're not going to be able to get an adequate replacement. Todibo would cost you 35 million. So you'd want at least that for Raphael Varane, wouldn't you? And, the offers that are floating around at the moment are somewhere around 20 million. So when you look at it like that, you either secure one of the best centre-backs in world football over the last 10 years on lower wages, or you sell him for 20 million, which is not going to get you anything better. So it does make logical sense, but I do agree with the stance that, United need to get his wages down. So we'll wait and see what happens with that one. I want you guys to let me know in the comment section, how much do you think is a fair wage for Raphael Varane? Take in mind, he's on 340 grand a week now. And the story we're hearing this morning is that United want him to be earning less. How much less, we're not sure at this point, but please do let me know in the comment section. How much do you think would be a fair wage for Raphael Varane, considering he's on 340 grand a week now? I would say personally somewhere around 200 to 250 would be like the absolute limit for me. I think anything more than that, I think is too much. So yeah, I would say maybe 200 with some incentives, So for every time he plays a game, he might get an extra 10 grand. For every clean sheet they get, he might get an extra 20 grand, something like that. I'd have no issue with that whatsoever. His contract does expire in the summer, so we've got to be very, very careful here, because in theory, he could sign a pre-contract agreement in January with another club and leave for free in 6 months. So we've got to be careful. We don't want to offend him and then him end up walking away. We've seen how important he is to this team. We've seen why he should be starting every single game. Yes, Maguire did okay for, about 10 games. Maguire was doing well. He obviously got the Player of the Month award in the Premier League, which came as a bit of a surprise. But let's be honest, right? Varane is levels above Harry Maguire. I don't think there's really any debate about that, is there, within this community or within any Manchester United fan. Maguire is slow. He doesn't turn very well. And I just don't think he's that good of a centre-back, to be honest. Whereas Raphael Varane, on his day, is world class. He's one of the best in the world. So for me, definitely happy to keep Varane. I just think that, as this story says, it needs to be on a reduced wage. Otherwise, I think maybe it's a little bit of a stupid deal to do. Because the thing you have to remember, right, everyone, is we're not going to be in the Champions League next season, okay? You can't be paying a footballer, regardless of who they are, regardless of how many trophies they've won, you can't be paying somebody 340 grand a week, when you're not even in the Champions League. Like, that's just stupid. That is downright stupid. Like, So yeah, I think that will be the kind of argument that United are having with Varane. They'll say, we want you to stay, but we're out of the Champions League. At this point in time, it doesn't look like we're going to be in the Champions League next season. We want you to stay, but we can't give you 340 grand a week again. And I think he probably would accept that, because he'll know that the only place in the world where he'll get that type of money is Saudi. And the question is, does he want to move to Saudi Arabia? Maybe he does. Maybe he'd be happily maybe he'd happily go there. I'm just having a look at some of the wages now. I mean, Jordan Henderson, who, let's be honest, is a pretty average footballer in my opinion, 700 grand a week he's paid in Saudi. N'Golo Kante, 1.7 million pounds a week in Saudi. Neymar, 2.6 million pounds a week. Benzema, 3.5 million, and Ronaldo is paid 3.6 million pounds per week in Saudi. So Varane could easily move to Saudi and earn probably double what he's earning at United. So it just completely depends what he wants to do. I mean, even Koulibaly, £576,000 a week he earns in Saudi, and I believe that's all tax-free as well. So he's literally taking home all of that money. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Paul says 200 grand a week would be fair. I agree. I think 200 is fair. Adam says 100 grand a week. Mida says 150 grand a week max. Somebody else says 200 grand a week for someone injured half the time is too much. 100k a week will do. I hear you, mate. Because the thing is, right, I'm singing Varane's praise at the moment, but the likelihood is he'll probably get injured in a couple of games and be out for 2 months or something, and then we'll all be sat here saying maybe we should get rid of him. So there is always that concern in the back of your head. It's like, do you get rid of these players whilst they're in form, whilst they're fit? Or do you keep them, give them a new contract, and then in the likelihood they'll be injured in a couple of games' time? It's a difficult one because nobody can read the future. Maybe Varane will stay fit for the rest of the season. Now that we've only got 1 game a week, maybe he'll be able to manage 1 game a week and he'll be okay. He'll have a great season and maybe we'll get top 4. Like, that is a possibility. But obviously it's a hypothetical. It's probably a slim chance that would happen. Right, let's talk a little bit about the game today. Obviously 5:30 p.m. kickoff against Nottingham Forest. I do invite you to have your score predictions in the comment section. I think we're going to beat Nottingham Forest. I don't think they're a particularly good side. Yes, they beat Newcastle the other day, but Newcastle are really struggling at the moment. I think they've won 1 game out of the last 8. I don't think it'll be easy, but let me just have a quick look. Obviously, Elanga's been on form. I know they've got a couple of injuries, so do we. I think it's going to be quite tight. I don't think it'll be an easy game, but I do think we will beat them. I think it will maybe be 2-1 or 3-1 to Manchester United. Team news-wise, it's all of the same people who played against Aston Villa. I imagine that will be the same starting 11. If McTominay starts this game, I think we'll lose. I genuinely think that. It has to be the same midfield. Kobe Mainoo, obviously. Who else was it in that game? Kobe Mainoo, Ericsson and Bruno. It has to be that for me. I wouldn't bring Amrabat back into this game personally. I think Ericsson adds a lot creatively. I think he had a good game against Villa. So yeah, for me, it would be those 3. I would keep the front 3 as the same. I'd have, Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right, Højlund as the striker. And then in relation to the defence, it would be the same defence as what happened against Villa. So I'm quietly confident about this one. I mean, the thing we have to remember is, right, Nottingham Forest are literally at the bottom of the table. They're 17th. So yes, they just beat Newcastle, but they are only 2 points off the relegation, whereas we are towards the top of the table. If we have any aspiration of finishing 5th, 6th, or even 4th, we need to be beating teams like Nottingham Forest away from home. It's as simple as that. Anything less than a win, I think pretty much seals our fate, and we won't get top 4. I know a lot of you don't think we're going to get top 4 anyway, but there is obviously a chance. We're only halfway through the season. Aston Villa could easily lose their next 3 games. We win our next 3 games and we're in the top 4. Like, just remember that for a minute. I know teams like West Ham are on form at the moment, but Aston Villa, I have a feeling that Aston Villa are going to slip a little bit. I don't know why, I just have a bit of a feeling that it's going to start going a bit downhill for them. And we can then capitalise on it. But we can only capitalise on it if we actually win our games. That's the most important thing here. Let's see what people are saying. Diablo says, more goals for Rasmus today. Now he's off the mark. Daniel says, if he picks McTominay to start today, Eric Ten Hag is going backwards and has learnt nothing. I would be shocked if McTominay starts today. But He probably will. It seems to happen, doesn't it? We have one really positive match. We see what we can do without McTominay, and then the next game McTominay starts and we look rubbish. It just happens over and over again. Everybody, let me know your score predictions in the comment section below. I'm going with either 2-1 or 3-1 Manchester United. I think Garnacho is going to have another big game today. I think Rasmus might even get another goal today, to be honest. I'm feeling confident now. Now that he's got that one goal, I feel like his confidence will be up, and I feel like he will kick on from here. So I'm excited about this match, 5:30. We won't be doing a watch long, but I will be live. As soon as the game finishes, I'll do like a match reaction type video. So make sure you guys are around for that. Right, let's talk a little bit about Anthony Martial now. The headline this morning is that Manchester United are going to let Anthony Martial's contract run down. So for anybody unaware, Martial's contract expires in the summer. So he'll be a free agent, and United are not going to give him a new contract. Correct decision. Definitely the correct decision. I think he's on 250,000 a week. He's been ill for the last 3 weeks. I mean, hopefully he is genuinely ill, and I don't know how to say this in the right way, but like, hopefully if he is ill, he's okay, because to be ill for 3 weeks when you're a professional athlete, that's quite unusual, isn't it? Most people, if you have a cold, it's for like a week, and that's like normal people, not professional athletes. So for a professional athlete to be unable to train, unable to be in match days, unable to do his job ultimately for 3 weeks because of an illness, hopefully he's okay. But there are obviously question marks about whether this is an actual illness or whether he's trying to push for a move in January. They're trying to stop him from getting injured, because the thing with Martial is he could quite easily get injured and be out for 2-3 months. Are United looking over their shoulder thinking the January transfer window is right around the corner? Let's wrap him up in cotton wool and let's try and push him out in January. That's obviously a possibility because, in my opinion, we need a new striker. Martial doesn't really seem to offer much, I don't think. So yeah, and whether we go and get this Guirassy guy, I'm not sure. It's gone very quiet around that story. I personally think that this Guirassy deal was heavily brought up by his agent. I think this sounded very much like agent doing, It was United want Guirassy. Guirassy's in talks with United. And then it suddenly just goes completely silent. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure this Guirassy guy will go somewhere. Obviously, Newcastle are interested as well. I think Newcastle are obviously in a worse position than we are at the moment. So maybe they are the ones who go out and spend, some big money in the January window. We know they've got a lot of money to spend. Who did Newcastle play? I mean, Newcastle play Liverpool on Monday. Newcastle are really struggling, aren't they? Really, really struggling. I mean, they're below us, aren't they? And there's no talk at the moment of Eddie Howe being sacked. They're down in 9th, Newcastle. And if they were to lose against Liverpool, they would effectively be out of the top 4 race. They'd probably be about 11 points off top 4. Only halfway through the season. So it's a bit of a concern for them. Mila says, would you sell Pellistri to get play time for Diallo? I don't know, mate, to be honest. I don't think I'd sell Pellistri. I like Pellistri. I think he's decent. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. I would probably loan out Pellistri to either someone in the Premier League or in the Championship. And then I would, give Diallo some time. That's what I would do personally. But let me know what you guys think. Out of those two, who do you think should get some game time? Florian says, do you think Ahmad will play today in the second half? Ahmad apparently has travelled and will be available on the bench. So maybe we will get to see a bit of Ahmad Diallo today. I would be very surprised if he starts the game, though. Maybe he comes on in the last 10 minutes or so if we're either chasing the game or, trying to hold out the game. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. One final thing then before we wrap up the show today is on Jadon Sancho. And the headline this morning is that Manchester United are now struggling to find a buyer for Jadon Sancho. I mean, we all kind of expected this to happen, didn't we? Who's going to buy Jadon Sancho and give him 375 grand a week? No one. No one is that stupid to do that. The only people who would have done that are the Saudi clubs, but Jadon doesn't want to go to Saudi. So it now opens the question of, do we think Sancho will stay at Manchester United? Maybe. Maybe he'll have to. Whether that be, loaning him out, he's still technically our player if we loan him out. We're still going to probably pay 50% plus of his wages if we loan him out. So it's a really, really difficult one. Jadon Sancho's agents were at Carrington yesterday for meetings with the club. Obviously, at this point, we don't know what the outcome of those meetings are. I assume they're desperately trying to, find him a new club. But ultimately, there isn't that many options there, even for a loan. If he's on 375 grand a week, most top clubs in Europe probably wouldn't even be willing to pay him half of that. Genuinely. I mean, Dortmund wouldn't, Juventus wouldn't, the list goes on. So it will ultimately mean that United have to probably pay 50% plus of his wages, loan him out somewhere, and then in the summer he'll still be our problem. It's a really, really difficult situation to be in. I don't know where the situation goes from here personally. Like, for me, the best situation would be to try and sell him to Saudi, but apparently he doesn't want to go to Saudi. I just think it's a little bit like, if you're not willing to apologise, then just leave. And if there is a genuine offer on the table from Saudi, just go. And if you think you're better than you are, go there, prove yourself, and then a top club will come back in for you. Ronaldo's gone there and proved himself. Not that he needed to prove himself, but anybody who doubted Cristiano Ronaldo has been left in the mud, really, haven't they? Because he's gone there and he's banging in goals for fun. And the league is not that competitive, but it has got a little bit more serious in the last kind of 6 to 8 months, isn't it? There are some good players in the Saudi league now. So, yeah. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined me on the show this morning. Please do make sure to smash a like before you go. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you to everyone who's watched the show today. Please do as well before you go. Once the video goes live, get in the comment section. Let me know your score predictions for the Nottingham Forest game. Have a lovely day, everybody. Enjoy your Saturdays. Hopefully I'm back later this evening after a big win because we desperately need it. Have a good one, everyone. I'll speak to you later.